He's been a leader. He's been the point guard. He's been the one that has opinions.
They made the choice, and so moving forward.
I think we can all agree that that was an F.
Coldest way possible, but nobody expected the chaos James Harden and Kawhi Leonard unleashed when they hinted that Ty Lue might have had a hand in it. And the story behind it is straight up wild. Picture this. It's 3 a.m. Eastern Time, December 4th, 2025. The Clippers are in Atlanta on a road trip, crashing at their hotel before playing the Hawks. Everyone's asleep except Chris Paul, the 12-time All-Star, 11-time All-NBA guard, and the man with more assists than anyone besides John Stockton, is wide awake because he just got told his time with the Los Angeles Clippers, the team where he made history during the Lob City era, is over. And here's the real shocker. CP3 is CP3. He's been Chris Paul for 21 years, 21 seasons. He's been a leader. He's been the point guard. He's the one that has opinions. He was brought into the Spurs to elevate Wemby and be that veteran leadership. He was in OKC with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, teaching him how to run the squad and things like that. Obviously stops in Golden State. Chris Paul...
CP3 is CP3. He's been Chris Paul for 21 years, 21 seasons. He's been a leader. He's been the point guard. He's been the one that has opinions. He was brought into the Spurs to elevate Wemby and be that veteran leadership. He was in OKC with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, teaching him how to run the squad and things like that. Obviously stops in Golden State. Chris Paul is Chris Paul. So as an organization, if you thought that he was gonna come in and not say anything, then I think that that's not being aligned from the front office to the coaching staff to the locker room. And with that being said, I think losing exposes.
Here it is. Here's Ramona Shelburne. She posted it on X. Just found out I'm being sent home. Peace. Just found out I'm being sent home. Peace. That's all Chris Paul needed to say, it with a peace sign emoji, to blow up the entire basketball world. One short post from one of the greatest point guards ever, and just like that, his return to the Clippers crashed in the most shocking way imaginable. But here's where it gets even crazier. James Harden and Kawhi Leonard, the faces of the Clippers, the franchise cornerstones, had no idea any of this was going down. Let that sink in. Harden and Leonard, the leaders of the team, learned about Chris Paul's release the same way everyone else did, straight from social media. They rolled out of bed, checked their phones, and boom, chaos everywhere. No warning from the front office, no call from Ty Lue or anyone on the coaching staff. Nobody thought maybe we should give our stars a heads up before sending a future Hall of Famer packing overnight. The whole thing went down in total silence. And when reporters caught up with Harden and Leonard after the Clippers' 115-92 win over the Hawks that night, their faces said it all. You could see the confusion, the frustration, everything. The league was already buzzing from the drama, and the media jumped on it instantly, digging for every detail they could find. The NBA and Los Angeles Clippers, who are now 5-11 and a complete disaster, they announced this morning that Chris Paul is no longer a part of their team. The Clippers sent Paul back to LA from Atlanta on a one-way ticket. James Harden, who used to run the floor with Chris Paul back in their Houston days, didn't hold back for a second. He told reporters, "I'm just as confused and shocked as you guys. The world definitely surprised me, but not just Chris. It's a lot that we were dealing with, but that is out of my hands. I gotta focus on what I gotta focus on and what I can control." I guess the front office felt that was the best decision for the organization. Did you hear that? When Harden said not just, "it's a lot that we were dealing with," he basically let the truth slip. There's something way deeper going on inside the Clippers. That one line exposed...
I don't have a side, I don't like it, it just didn't work out like we thought it would, and like I said, I don't like it for CP, but it just wasn't a good fit, we understood that, and so, like I said, it was an organization, they made the choice, and so moving forward, we got to see what we do, so, we'll see.
Shocking to me. And what made it even crazier was that he revealed he had just been having good talks with Paul about how to boost the team's chemistry and tighten their play. Think about that. Kawhi and Chris were literally planning ways to turn the season around, trying to make the squad stronger. And out of nowhere, Chris gets sent home, like he suddenly became an issue they didn't want around. That's wild. Some folks tried to say Harden and Kawhi should have stepped in, but the analysts on PTI made it loud and clear. The blame isn't on the players. This mess came straight from the top.
My sense of this is that it's on the general manager and the coach.
Okay.
They stink. They have lost 14 of their last 16 games.
Now we've got to break down exactly how this whole thing turned into a full-blown disaster, because the way it all went down doesn't even sound real. For weeks, tension had been bubbling behind the scenes, with Chris Paul speaking up louder than ever about accountability throughout the entire organization. He wasn't just calling out players, he was checking coaches and even management. And that bold energy rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. That heat built up fast between Chris.
The NBA and Los Angeles Clippers, who are now 5-16 and a complete disaster. They announced this morning that Chris Paul is no longer a part of their team. The Clippers sent Paul back to LA from Atlanta on a one-way ticket.
2025-26 season, sitting at a brutal 6-6 record, second worst in the Western Conference. And to make it worse, they couldn't even tank for a fresh start because their draft pick belonged to the Oklahoma City Thunder. So they were losing non-stop, couldn't rebuild, and the locker room vibe was completely falling apart. Now that we know Harden and Leonard were blindsided, it's time to dig into what really went down behind the curtain, because the rumored fallout between Paul and Ty Lue is the key to this chaos. Insiders say Paul and Lue barely spoke, only interacting when they had to during games. Ty Lue shot down those rumors, saying firmly that's not true, when asked if communication had broken down. But what's been coming out since paints a very different picture, one filled with real tension and quiet conflict that ran way deeper than anyone thought. When Ty Lue finally addressed the situation, his words were careful but revealing. He said that even though he didn't like how things ended, the fit just wasn't right anymore, and that one comment sparked even more questions about what truly went down between him and Chris Paul.
Don't have a side, I don't like it, just didn't work out like we thought it would, and like I said, I don't like it for CP, but it just wasn't a good fit. We understood that, and so like I said, it was an organization. They made the choice, and so moving forward, we got to see what we do. We'll see.
Listen to Ty Lue's words closely. It just wasn't a good fit. He basically admitted that even with all the excitement around Chris Paul returning to LA, Paul's intense leadership simply didn't match what the Clippers were trying to do, and the details leaking out about his clashes with the staff make the picture even clearer. One report highlighted a moment with assistant coach Jeff Van Gundy that showed how real the tension was in a game against the Mavericks. Kawhi Leonard was on a minutes restriction and struggling to keep up with Klay Thompson after sitting for a while. During a late timeout, Chris Paul went to Kawhi and suggested they switch defensive assignments until Kawhi warmed back up. NBA insider Chris Haynes broke down that moment, and it showed just how strained things had gotten inside that Clippers huddle.
Leonard was on a minute restriction, and sources told me that when he was guarding Klay Thompson, he was struggling. When he got into the game after sitting down for a while, he was struggling keeping up with Klay Thompson. And so there was a timeout called late in that fourth quarter. And during the fourth quarter and during that timeout, Chris Paul went to Kawhi Leonard and said, "Hey, man, are you fresh enough? Do you feel good? Do you feel like you can stick with Klay Thompson?" And he asked the teammates, "Hey, y'all might want to switch this. Wait till he gets warm until he goes and guards Klay."
Now, here's where things get real interesting. The very next day, while the team was on the plane, Jeff Van Gundy pulled Chris Paul aside for a meeting and straight up asked him if he had switched the defensive assignment. Paul told him he didn't change anything, he only suggested an adjustment to help the team, but Van Gundy's reaction said everything. NBA insider Chris Haynes reported that the conversation between the two turned confrontational almost instantly, showing just how tense things had become behind the scenes.
And so I was told that Jeff Van Gundy told Chris Paul, "Listen, you might have had leeway in other places to be able to, to change up defensive coverages, but you don't have that leeway here." And that was just one of the minor verbal incidents between Jeff Van Gundy and Chris Paul. That was one of a few.
Did you catch that? You might have had leeway in other places, but you don't have that leeway here. That line says everything about the power dynamic inside the Clippers. The coaching staff was basically telling a future Hall of Famer, a 12-time All-Star with over 20 years of elite point guard experience, that his basketball IQ and leadership weren't welcome in their system. And Chris Paul didn't let that slide. He went on Instagram and posted a screenshot of the definition of the word leeway, a quiet but sharp message showing exactly how frustrated he was with the way he was being treated. The panel on NBA on Prime broke it down perfectly, saying communication like this between coaches and players should be normal, not some heated confrontation. Udonis Haslem, a veteran who understands locker rooms better than almost anyone, stressed that everything starts with trust, and without that, situations like this blow up fast.
I mean, just speaking on this particular specific incident that Chris is talking about, I've had those conversations with guys as we're leaving the huddle. Hey, let's try to look at this. Let's try to look at that. That's based on the trust that I built with those guys, and that's based on the trust that I built with the coaching staff. I am one of those guys that I will refuse to let one guy take down 15.
But the allegations don't stop there. Multiple sources, including former players and people close to the situation, say Chris Paul's constant critiques about practices, rotations, and overall discipline were starting to wear down both Harden and Leonard. Reports claimed the two stars had grown tired of Paul's style, even though they publicly acted shocked when he was released. Kendrick Perkins, who knows league politics and locker room tension better than most, gave his take on what was really happening behind the scenes. He explained that for Ty Lue to reach a point where he isn't speaking to a player, something serious had to go down. That kind of silence doesn't happen unless the situation is already way past the breaking point.
And so when you think about, and we hear these stories about, oh, Ty Lue wasn't speaking to him, or he wouldn't take a meeting with him, or they wasn't on speaking terms for 3 weeks, it gets you to thinking, what the hell was CP3 doing? You get sent home at 3 o'clock in the morning.
During, what the hell were you doing in that locker room? Because it wasn't just because of that event, that situation that happened. It was stuff that that kept building up throughout the course of the season. He was doing stuff behind Ty Lue's back, going to players, whispering, saying things, and causing turmoil when the team is already struggling and going through a lot. Let's be clear, we're hearing different angles on this story, and the truth is likely somewhere in the middle, but one thing stands out. Ty Lue admitted he didn't want Chris Paul's situation to end this way. He showed real respect for Paul while also admitting the dynamic just wasn't working anymore. When reporters asked if he wanted CP3's career to take a turn like this, Lue's answer was honest and a bit heavy, showing he understood how tough the whole situation had become. Do I want to see CP go out like this? No, I have a lot of respect for him. He's been a friend of mine over the years, and you never want to see a great go out, like this. But I'm pretty sure he will find something because he's a great player. He's, and so I didn't want to see it end like this. The big question everyone's asking now is this: was Ty Lue actually part of the decision to send Chris Paul home, or did Lawrence Frank and the front office handle it solo? When reporters pressed Lue on whether he agreed with the move and if it would help the team, his response caught everyone off guard. He said, "I don't think it'll necessarily help our team. I don't think the reason why we're 5-16 is because of Chris." That's a bold statement. Even the head coach admitted cutting Chris Paul wasn't some magic fix. The Clippers' problems go way beyond one veteran speaking his mind. They're sitting near the bottom of the league offensively at 111.6 points per game, giving up 116.8 on defense, and Kawhi Leonard's already missed key time dealing with injuries. The team's struggles run way deeper than just one roster change. So what now? What's next for Chris Paul, the Clippers, and the rest of the league? Because this whole situation has blown up bigger than anyone expected, and the fallout is massive. Let's talk about Chris Paul first. Even after everything, he's handled it like a total pro. In an exclusive People magazine interview on December 9th, he said, "I'm at peace with everything," and added that he's got no regrets. He even mentioned that stepping away has given him rare time with his family, and including being there for his son's upcoming game. And when NBA insider Chris Haynes checked in to see what's next, CP3 didn't hesitate. The future Hall of Famer made it clear he's locked in, staying ready and waiting for the next opportunity that comes his way. Really layered situation, clearly. So what's next for CP3? Well, I reached out to Chris Paul. He hasn't spoke yet, but I did reach out to him and asked him that very question, and he sent me a response back. And in his text message response, he said, "I'm just staying ready. I'm hooping right now. I don't know what's next." Chris Paul said, "I don't regret anything," and he meant it. He's looking back on the whole experience as part of his journey, not something to dwell on. And honestly, that kind of maturity is exactly what you expect from a veteran at his level. This is someone who's played 21 seasons in the league, been traded, been doubted, faced tough moments nonstop, and still carried himself with professionalism and dignity every step of the way. But here's the part that really hits hard. Chris Paul had already announced that the 2025 to 2026 season would be his final run in the NBA. When he signed with the Clippers in July 2025, he saw it as the perfect full circle moment, a return to Los Angeles for a poetic final chapter. This was supposed to be his victory lap, his storybook ending, and instead it turned into one of the most abrupt and unceremonious exits the league has seen in years. When Paul first signed with the Clippers, the emotion was real. He talked openly about how much coming back meant to him and his family, and how grateful he was for the chance to finish his career in the city where his legacy truly exploded.
It's kind of wild, kind of crazy. Still kind of speechless. I'll probably have a lot of words later with my family, sort of just taking it, the whole experience here and right now. This is one of those things I kind of manifested for a long time, sort of tried to speak it into existence, but you just never know if it's really going to happen, because I love the hoop, I love to play this game, but I love my family more than any of it. When it comes to Chris Paul's next move, the rumors are flying everywhere. He becomes trade eligible on December 15th, 2025, and suddenly a bunch of teams are in the mix. The Lakers are getting attention because of his close bond with LeBron James, and the Oklahoma City Thunder makes sense too, since Paul had a strong run there mentoring Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Betting odds even list the Cleveland Cavaliers as the early favorite, with the Spurs and Heat also mentioned as possible fits. But what really has the basketball world fired up is how Paul was treated on his way out, and Stephen A. Smith didn't hold back at all when talking about the resume of a player who deserved way more respect than a late-night send-off. This is Chris Paul, this is CP3, and Lawrence Frank is already on the record talking about, we're not blaming him. You lost 5 straight. You lost 5 straight. You see that tweet right there that Chris Paul just put out in the middle of the night? Just found out I'm being sent home? This is Chris Paul, the former president of the Players Association, 21st season, 12-time All-Star, 11-time All-NBA selection, member of the 75th anniversary team, former Rookie of the Year, 6-time steals leader. The real story here is what this situation reveals about the Los Angeles Clippers as an organization. Draymond Green warned players league-wide that this shows how even respected veterans can be treated like they're disposable, something that could scare off future free agents. Carmelo Anthony called the Clippers' approach disrespectful, and Stephen A. Smith went even harder, labeling the whole process pathetic and embarrassing. He made it clear the organization deserves to be called out for the way they handled Chris Paul's exit. I think to send him home is so damn disrespectful that I'm still looking at the organization, which is the Clippers, which by the way deserves to be vilified. And now we need to look at the bigger organizational problems that have been dragging this franchise down, because the Chris Paul situation is really just a symptom of something much deeper. The Clippers once gave up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, 5 first-round picks and 2 pick swaps for Paul George back in 2019, and now George is in Philadelphia and the Clippers got nothing back. They also traded multiple players and picks for James Harden, extended Kawhi Leonard on huge contracts despite his ongoing injuries, and now the team is sitting at 6-18, the oldest roster in the league, with their star player only available part-time due to load management. Stephen A. Smith took it a step further and questioned how Lawrence Frank climbed to power inside the organization in the first place, along with the decisions made under his leadership. He made it clear the issues run way deeper than one veteran being sent home. First of all, Lawrence Frank, he was brought there as an assistant coach under Doc Rivers. How is it that you go from an assistant coach to Doc Rivers, who, by the way, was running basketball operations and was the head coach of the Clippers, to all of a sudden being put over Doc Rivers as the head of basketball operations, and ultimately Doc Rivers is gone? You talk about I don't know about, at the very least we could say that smells, at the very least. Talk about a franchise curse has blown up again, with many pointing to the Clippers' long history of chaos, from the Donald Sterling scandals to constant playoff disappointments. One writer even said the team isn't just unlucky, but actually keeps the curse alive with moves like pushing out Chris Paul for caring too much about winning. On NBA on Prime, the panel highlighted a key issue: how decisions are made inside the organization. Udonis Haslem stressed that real locker room problems should be handled by the people who are actually in that locker room every day.
Where's Lawrence Frank's office? Where's his office at? Do you know? Yeah, they got a brand, so it's not in the locker room. It's not in the locker room, basically. It's not. Okay, so he shouldn't be in none of that got to do with locker room conversation. This is our sanctuary. This is our sanctuary. This is the coaches. This is the guys that come to practice every day.
So what's the real verdict here? We have to admit there are different sides to this story, and the truth isn't simple. Chris Paul is a demanding leader with high standards, and that style works great with young teams that want structure and guidance. But on a veteran roster like the Clippers, filled with established stars who already have their own routines and approaches, his style might have clashed hard. But even with that, the way the Clippers handled this situation was completely out of line. You don't send a future Hall of Famer home in the middle of the night on a road trip. You don't drop the news in a 3-hour hotel meeting in Atlanta. A player with 21 years in this league deserves way more respect. You bring him back to Los Angeles, sit down with him and his family, talk things through, and work out a buyout with dignity so he can step away on his own terms. Stephen A. Smith captured exactly what most of the basketball world is feeling when he spoke on how a veteran of Paul's caliber was treated after 21 freaking years. You don't do that to him. This is Chris Paul. This is CP3. But that's not how it played out, and now the Clippers have to deal with the consequences. Their choice hurt their reputation, frustrated their fans, and sent a loud message to every free agent about how this organization treats its veteran stars. Meanwhile, James Harden and Kawhi Leonard are stuck in the middle, trying to win games while outside noise and inside tension keep building. Their shock seemed real, but it's hard not to wonder how much they really knew about what was happening behind the scenes. The Chris Paul chapter in Clippers history has ended on a bitter note. What comes next for CP3, the Clippers, and everyone involved is still unknown, but the basketball world isn't forgetting this story anytime soon. How do you feel about this whole situation? Was Chris Paul treated unfairly, or was this just part of the business? And where do you think he should go next? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I really want to hear your opinion. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Ball Stories for more NBA drama. Catch you in the next one. Peace.